We've reached God's Feeding Station. It's another latest broadcast. I'm Pastor Doug White. I'm in the studio here at God's Feeding Station at the New Day Church in Boulder, Colorado. In another studio right next to me is Henry Loke. This is our introduction. Henry, tell us the title, tell us where we're at, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we're in Ruth. We're Ruth 1, probably 19. I think we did 18 last thing. 19 through the end of the chapter.
Okay.
And I just titled it, Don't Call Me Naomi.
That's what she says.
That's what she says. She's going to return back to Bethlehem, and she's going to set some people straight.
That's awesome.
About what happened to her. Yeah.
Hey, in one of our recent broadcasts, we started out, we were laughing after a crazy day, and I said, this is God's Feeding Station, send us money, and you jumped in and said, send us alcohol.
And somebody sent both.
Money and alcohol showed up in the studio, man. So let me say that again. Send us money.
And send us alcohol.
There you go. Okay. We're ready to go. All right.
The people that think we're kidding, we're dead serious.
We're dead serious.
I walked into my office last night. There was an envelope full of cash and 2 bottles of wine sitting on my desk.
Yeah. I'm glad it wasn't like rolled in kegs or something.
No. But it was pretty funny when I walked in.
When I see the Brinks truck out front, then I'm excited. The bouillon would be awesome. Okay, someone will bring us chicken and beef bouillon probably.
Yeah, really.
So we're in Ruth chapter 1. Let me start with verse 19. I will read it to the end as just to 22. And let's chat a little bit. So the 2 women, they went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them, and the women exclaimed, "Can this be Naomi?" "Don't call me Naomi," she told him. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter." Okay? Now here's what I want to throw into the broadcast. The name Mara does mean bitter. Now remember that Naomi used to mean, what it does mean is more in the area of pleasant.
Yeah, so sweetness or pleasantness.
Yeah, so she's going, when I come back to this hometown,
that's
I'm
all
a
changed.
Bitter woman.
Yeah.
I'm not as pleasant as you think, okay? And so she says, so don't call me Naomi. She tells them, call me Mara, because the Almighty, which she's really referring to is Yahweh here, okay? Or maybe, I think it's actually El Shaddai in the actual Hebrew in that, okay? So he says, because the Almighty has made my life bitter, very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. Ooh, she's got an attitude, huh? I put that part in. It's not the scripture. Verse 22 say, Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth and the Moabites, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. Okay. Okay. Wow. Yeah,
well,
she's not happy.
No, and you can understand why. I mean, this is a gal who left with her husband, Elimelech, and they go to Bethlehem because they leave Bethlehem actually because of the famine that's in the land, and they have sons, and sons marry, and she's got a family, and everything's moving along, and then she loses it all. She loses her husband, she loses her sons, and we've talked about the last couple of broadcasts about this thing of her telling her daughters-in-law, look, I'm beyond childbearing years, and I'm not going to have sons for you, because the Jewish law was to have the brothers marry the widows, and there's just nobody. There's no men left in the family, and Ruth is the one that was stuck by her, but she went away full, and she comes back empty. There's just nothing left.
So
out of her family.
Here's a question. I'm looking at this.
Yep.
Naomi seems to probably maybe be shocked. She comes back to her hometown.
Yeah.
So, but here's what I'm thinking about this. From her perspective, she's bitter. She's telling the truth. She's bitter. Things have gone not well, in her opinion. Her husband dies. Her sons die.
Yep.
She's coming back with these 2 Moabite women, and she's going back to her hometown. Is it kind of like emotionally, is her tail between her legs? Is she feeling like, well, I'm going back because they've got no hope where I went. Everything's, gone to the trash here. She's in the dumps.
Yeah.
And so she goes back, and in a sense, they're excited to see her. Now, here's what I'm getting from it. So the 2 women, they went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them, and the women exclaimed, "Can this be Naomi?" And then she's like, "Don't even go there." Okay, I'm not coming back from the old past. It's not like the old days. Everything's bad. I mean, in some ways, her perspective is all on the misfortune, on the on the loss of life, everything. I can't have kids. Everything's bad, 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 bad. Mm-hmm. But they might be thinking, "Wow, she's home."
Yeah, well, they probably have no idea what's happened.
Yeah,
is my guess.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they leave, they pack up and go. I'm sure it was a big deal, and off they go. And she comes back and she walks in, and I'm sure they're looking at it too, going, "Well, where's Elimelech? Where's her husband?
Yeah,
is that Naomi? Well, what happened? What's going on?" Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's part of it.
And she's like, "By the way, if you're going to come in here and go, we're glad to see you. Let's have a party." She's like, "There's nothing. No, there's no party here.
No,
Not
because
ready for a party."
No, there's a little bit of Job in this, I think, too. There's a little bit of
the prodigal son, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of that too. I think with Job knew that all his stuff came from God, all his heartache and stuff came from God. I think Naomi knows that. Job blamed God a little bit in Job, and Naomi's doing that too. I think she knows her issues come from God. She's wondering why. She's looking at a future that really doesn't have a whole lot of hope.
Yeah.
A whole lot of upside. She's a widow. She knows what it's like for widows. She's got Ruth with her, one of her daughters-in-law, and it just doesn't look. The future's not looking too bright at the moment.
So let me give you one. This one's going to make you laugh, but I left the Yuma, Arizona, where I had spent 23 years, I think it was. I left there in 1991. So I've actually been living in Boulder now longer than I had lived there. But I grew up there as a young boy, okay? So maybe it was 22 years, whatever the case may be. So I had a friend named Bill that I hung out with in high school. We were inseparable. And one day I packed up and I split. And Lisa and I moved to Colorado and didn't really connect with friends we just came here, okay? So about maybe 9 years later, my son Doug heads back to Yuma to reconnect with his family, okay? Mm-hmm. And one day he's working at a dealership, Doug, and Doug Jr., okay, working in a Ford dealership, and he's standing there, and this man comes running up to him and goes, "Doug, long time no see," and gives him like a bear hug and starts talking to him. And Doug's looking at him going, "Dude, I don't know who you were, man. I lived here when I was a little kid." And he realizes, "Oh, you think I'm my dad. You think that I'm my dad, okay?" And the guy goes, "Well, your name's Doug, right?" He goes, "I'm his son." And the guy backs up and he goes, "You look just like your dad did
poor kid.
when he was in high school."
Right.
And all of a sudden he goes, "Well, of course you're not him because your dad is my age." But the guy was so excited to see him that he came and gave him a bear hug. And Doug's like, "Dude, you're talking about my dad." Mm-hmm. So there's a part of me that thinks she shows up unannounced. And they're like, "Wow, can this be Naomi?" Mm-hmm. And she's like, "Don't go there. Things are not, yeah."
No, she's not interested.
So I think in our own lives, if we get in that spot, I mean, obviously Naomi is living out this name. Her identity is bitterness. She goes, "Don't call me Naomi, call me bitter." Mm-hmm. And she goes, "Because I am bitter, and the reason why I'm bitter is because God did this to me." How many people have you met like that?
A lot.
A lot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, fortunately, the story doesn't end here.
Right.
And fortunately, we're going to find out Ruth, who is a Moabite, is so devoted and so loyal, and she's got her head screwed on so well.
Right.
I think she is a gift from God for Naomi.
Well, I think it probably speaks to what their life was like when they all lived together. They would shop together. They're involved in each other's lives. All these things, in Moab. There's just, when all families lived together back then.
Yeah.
And so they were just constantly around each other and probably had a decent life until it all went south. Right. And so my guess is Naomi treated her daughters-in-law very well. There was a love there. I mean,
it's all clear.
Yeah, she's trying to tell him go, and Ruth says to her, "And treat me no more to leave you. Please don't ask me to leave you again. I'm not going. I'm going with you. I will die with you. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God." All that stuff. And so there's this bond of affection between the two. And so they're going to go face whatever they're going to go face together.
Right.
But like we said, Naomi's looking at this going, there's not a lot of upside here. There's just not a lot of upside
Absolutely.
Right now.
And let me throw into the broadcast for those that are going to think we're not talking multiple gods here when I said Yahweh, but she calls out as El Shaddai. The Yahweh is the name of the true living God of the universe. El Shaddai would be a title that people gave or a description of the strong one or the mountain. There's different names that the people evoked for the one true God. Back in the Old Testament, we look at the name El, referring to this God, representing God. The name that the name that is revealed is Yahweh. Jesus called him Father, okay? But it doesn't mean we're worshiping multiple gods. But the Moabite people did have multiple gods, okay? I just want to make sure nobody thinks that although things have gone really bad for Naomi, that all of a sudden now she's got different gods that she's angry with.
Right.
That's not the point.
No.
Okay. All right.
No. So, well, and the only hope here in all of this, we've been talking about just a lot of hopelessness, is that it's a barley harvest. And, the famine must be over. Word must have got out that the famine's over. It says so that in the last broadcast we read that word got out that God had lifted the famine on Bethlehem, and so they go back. And so now it's the only hope they have right now is that there's food in the land again, so maybe there's hope there. But aside from that, Naomi's doesn't have that great an outlook on things that are coming.
Yeah.
And you'll have to see. We'll see how it all plays out. But that's going to be more than a barley harvest that we're dealing with here. In a little bit.
I think what happened to her, and this is the part of the story that I believe we all have to look at, is when things go bad, from our perspective, our inclination and our sinfulness is to blame God. Okay, and so when she calls out, instead of saying Yahweh has created this in my life, she calls out Almighty as El Shaddai, the one who's supposed to be strong and powerful. Obviously he's not, because look what happened to me. So she's actually pitting herself against God. And what I get prophetically is when you pit yourself against God, you do become bitter. You can get better and be transformed through the pain, right, or you can get bitter and transmit your pain. That's what I think she's doing here. I think she's really transmitting it. And I just thank God for what's coming up in the story. I've had a lot of fun reading ahead a little bit about this hardness and the hopelessness that's in Naomi's heart. But God brings and moves Ruth to begin to walk alongside. That's what I believe we are called to do when various people are in trials and tribulations, and their lot is not good. And the last thing I'll say on my part of it is I've been able to see some of this at very close range, being that we have a prison ministry here at New Day, and to see what can happen to the heart and mind of a person who is, their freedoms are stripped, they're incarcerated, they're bound, and they're in a spot. And man, it's real easy to just want to beat the cell block over and over because of where you're at. And to see how God uses people to come alongside, and sometimes he uses me in that way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what I think is going on here. Naomi has imprisoned herself by her own hardened heart at this moment in the story.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I had lunch with a really good friend of mine yesterday, and she was telling me, and she had a pretty rough year last year. Details don't matter, but she said, "Man, it's funny how God used that to bring me to a better place."
Beautifully said.
And I was like, "Yeah, it's that chastening thing we read about in the epistles in the New Testament. It's that chastening, it's like child rearing. That's what God does, and sometimes it really kind of sucks when you're in the middle of it, but you get on the backside of it, and you look back and go, wow, God really did a good work in there, and so yeah, it was worth it. And for her, she's at a much better place right now.
Praise
but
God.
It was tough.
My testimony would be similar.
Yeah, it was really tough for her. So yeah, it was good. So it's kind of the same thing. And, Naomi doesn't see it as that right now, but as this thing plays out, we're going to see that God's going to use this in a really cool way.